In this video, I'll show you August 17th, 2022, YouTuber Benjamin Spandy, more commonly known as Loaf, visited the Valley Fair amusement park in Shakopee, Minnesota, with fellow YouTuber Gotten and a camera person to commit pranks and engage in some, quote, UN, quote, buffoonery. The YouTubers participated in and filmed a variety of antics with number-dart shoes until they decided to approach an individual who they claimed had cut the line for a ride.
Why'd you cut the line?
Huh?
Why'd you cut the line?
I'm talking to my cousin.
No,
I'm not going on a ride.
No, I watched you though. You cut the whole line.
I'm talking to
All
my
these
cousin.
people are waiting for their kids to get off. They're not in line.
No, but I've been waiting this whole time.
This really isn't.
You can't get on here anyway. You're too tall.
What are you talking about? Yes, I can.
Not this one.
You can't get on this ride.
Oh, you
You're too
got
tall.
52.
Are you discriminating against me because I'm tall?
Hey, this dude. You know him?
I mean, you can ask him, but he's not gonna let you on the
Yeah,
ride.
you're too tall.
No, but some of us are waiting and like out there all day, and she just cut the line.
You say I'm discriminating.
All of these
cousin.
parents are waiting for their kids to get off the ride. None of them are waiting to get
None
on
of
the
them
ride.
are waiting to get on the ride. There is no line.
No, like I'm just trying to go on the ride. Goten, I thought that was you. I thought you were next to me. I looked over. It's not you.
You guys over at the kids area recently?
The kids area.
We had a description of two white guys and a black guy.
I'm half white.
I'm sure the victim didn't really take it
The
IQ
victim?
test too. Sexual assault.
What?
They said, yeah, you guys grabbed her. You had a camera. That's why I'm thinking that camera.
We
Yeah.
grabbed her?
Whoa!
Who?
We're gonna go take you guys back so she can see if she can identify you, and then we got SPD coming too. So we're just gonna.
What are you talking? Who did we grab?
I just got the report. So
This has got
What?
blew way out of proportion, yo.
Grab?
blow out of proportion. Were you there?
Talk about
Who did we
assault.
grab?
We don't even know we don't even know who you're talking about.
That's fine. You fit the description.
Are you a cop?
No, I'm not a cop.
All right, I'm leaving. I don't have to wait for anything. Are we under arrest?
No, but you're not going to. You're also on private property. So.
Yeah, so we'll leave the park then. I'm not staying here with people like
Accusing us of the director of security tells the YouTubers that they are not under arrest, but that they need to follow him so the accuser can identify them. And Mr. Spandy argues that they do not have to remain at the park if they are not under arrest. Section 629.37 of the Minnesota statutes provides that a private citizen may arrest another, quote, for a public offense committed or attempted in the arresting person's presence when the person arrested has committed a felony, although not in the arresting person's presence, or when a felony has, in fact, been committed, and the arresting person has reasonable cause for believing the person arrested to have committed it. While interpreting this statute, the Minnesota Court of Appeals explained in the 2002 case of State v. Esquivel that, quote, before a private citizen can make an arrest, the arresting citizen must have probable cause to believe that the other person has violated the law. Accordingly, although the security director did not personally observe the YouTubers commit any crimes, he may have been within his authority to detain them as a citizen's arrest based on the accusation of sexual assault, provided he had sufficient probable cause to believe they had committed a felony in the 2008 case of U.S. v. Wallace. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Minnesota, determined that information supplied by the victim of a crime can be sufficient to establish probable cause. Now, quoting absent some indication the information is not reasonably trustworthy or reliable. In the Wallace case, an officer relied on a minor's interview detailing her sexual assault in a search warrant affidavit, and the court determined that while some of the minor statements may be false, they were sufficient for probable cause because the officer had the opportunity to assess the credibility of the victim's account related to the crime at issue. However, it is important to note that in addition to requiring probable cause when an offense is not committed in the presence of the individual making the arrest, Minnesota's citizen's arrest statute requires the crime in question to be a felony for an arrest to be lawful. During the interaction, the security guard stated that the YouTubers were accused of sexual assault, specifically grabbing the individual. Section 609.343 of the Minnesota statutes provides in part that a person who engages in sexual contact with another person is guilty of criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, which is a felony offense if the actor actually inflicts bodily harm or if the actor causes personal injury and attempts or threatens to inflict bodily harm, or commits or threatens to commit another crime against someone. For the purposes of this statute, the term sexual contact is defined in Section 609.341 of the Minnesota statutes as including, quote, the intentional touching by the actor of the complainant's intimate parts, or the touching of the clothing covering the immediate area of the intimate parts without the complainant's consent, while personal injury means bodily harm, severe mental anguish, or pregnancy. And Section 609.02 of the Minnesota statutes defines the term bodily harm as, quote, physical pain or injury, illness, or any impairment of physical condition accordingly, depending on where on her body. The individual alleged that she was grabbed and whether she claimed to suffer any physical pain, injury, or severe mental anguish. It is possible that a court could conclude that the security guard had the probable cause necessary to conduct a citizen's arrest for the felony offense of second-degree criminal sexual conduct.
The person to come see if they can identify you.
Which way's the exit? I'm usually chill, but you can't walk up and accuse us of sexual assault. Get the out of here.
What's your name? Dan. I'm the director of security. All I asked you guys is to hold on so we can sit here and get this script.
No, I'm not holding on for anybody. Yeah, she grabbed. Dude, she touched us.
So now you were there. You just said you didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, we were there. We didn't grab anybody. And we literally have it all on video.
Okay, well then you have nothing to worry about. Why can't you just resolve it then?
I'm not staying here to explain a situation that we didn't do anything wrong. They brought backup too. What are you doing? Why is there 3 of them? You guys brought out the whole Avengers for this.
Come over here in the security office.
Why don't we not?
Well, if you're innocent, then I'll tell you what.
Why don't we not? Shut the hell up. You're not getting front of the line pass. You accused us of sexual assault.
And why don't you want to talk to
Now you're not. Now you're going to apologize.
This is private property.
Oh, okay. I'll step
At
up.
this point. No, you should. How
She-
she scared
oh
when
my
she
God.
drive?
She said 3 people assaulted her.
There is no
Why
way.
wouldn't she be
Get
scared?
out of here. This dude offers front of the line passes for the inconvenience. Get out of here. He's the guy that gets rejected from the police academy and then goes and power trips on everybody. It's not an inconvenience. People get their lives ruined from that.
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Nothing much.
Hang on a second.
Is anything the problem?
Yeah. So what's going on today?
They walked up and accused us of sexual assault. We have the whole thing on camera. We didn't do anything.
Okay.
And
I don't know much. I'm just trying to look into it, trying to get both sides of the story too. If you're worried about recording, everything's recording right here as well.
are we under arrest or?
No, we're just being.
So we can leave. We can leave
You're
then.
being detained. Really free to look into something. If you
Okay.
want to get rough like that,
I'm
you
not
can go
getting.
all day
I'm
long.
not
Yeah,
getting
right.
rough.
You have an ID with you.
Yeah.
Break it out.
Why are we being
We're
detained?
looking into something
Hold
right
on.
now.
I don't think we committed a crime for us to be asked questions for
Yeah.
IDs and stuff.
So are we free to go?
Well, then you can go to jail if you'd like. If you're not going to identify yourself, it's
I'll identify myself, but like I'm
Okay.
confused.
Officer with the Shakopee Police Department arrives at the park and implies that he will take the YouTubers to jail if they do not identify themselves. Minnesota has not passed a so-called stop and identify statute requiring individuals to identify themselves during Terry stops. However, refusing to identify oneself to law enforcement could potentially result in a conviction for obstruction. According to Section 609.50 of the Minnesota statutes, it is a violation of Minnesota law if an individual, quote, obstructs, resists, or interferes with the officer while the officer is engaged in the performance of official duties. In the 1988 case of State v. Kroski, the Supreme Court of Minnesota held that, quote, the statute forbids intentional physical obstruction or interference with a police officer in the performance of his official duties. The statute may be used to punish so-called fighting words or any other words that by themselves have the effect of physically obstructing or interfering with a police officer in the performance of his duties. However, in the 2022 case of Turner v. State, the Court of Appeals of Minnesota upheld an obstruction conviction against a citizen who repeatedly refused to provide his identification to a police officer who had reasonable suspicion to believe he was violating a local ordinance. Similarly, in the 2016 case of Lally v. Johnson, the United States District Court of Minnesota concluded that an individual's refusal to identify while walking and talking with an officer could potentially, quote, form an independently valid basis for arrest for obstruction. Accordingly, it is possible that a court would conclude that EU rubbers could be convicted of obstruction for refusing to identify themselves, as long as the court also determined that the officers had the reasonable suspicion necessary to detain them. As the Supreme Court noted in the 2014 case of Navarrete v. California, the court has now, quoting, firmly rejected the argument that reasonable cause for an investigative stop can only be based on the officer's personal observation rather than on information supplied by another person. Therefore, assuming that the park furnished the same amount of information to the officers that the director of security provided to the YouTubers, it is likely that the officers had the authority to briefly detain them to perform an investigatory stop, as even a mere allegation that the YouTubers supposedly grabbed someone would probably give the officers reasonable suspicion to believe that they potentially violated Section 609.224 of the Minnesota statutes, which codifies the misdemeanor offense of assault in the 5th degree and simply requires that an individual intentionally inflict bodily harm upon another.
Difficult, that's fine. We can do that.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm really not.
Okay. And you don't have an ID on you at all? Okay. What about you?
He's
deaf.
He's deaf?
Let me grab it. His wallet's in the car.
All I know is Valley Fair Security called us to look into something, all right? I don't know what's going on. There's two sides to every story. I know that from doing this job for a long time. We're waiting to get more information from here and see what's going on, okay?
On your point of view, what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing happened. There's no reason why we would stop you.
Nope.
There's no reason why you would accuse us of that.
Okay.
So you guys tell me what happened here, what was going on that caused this issue to arise and us being here.
I'm genuinely confused at what situation. We walked up and talked to somebody that was waiting for a ride. That's the only thing I can think of. We have it all on camera. We didn't touch anybody.
So much about touching.
We didn't say anything like sexual or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I asked her why she cut the line. I said, why'd you cut the line?
What's the sexual assault that we've got? Because he said that we touched somebody and we sexually assaulted them.
Again, I'm coming into this at the end here trying to sort it out and figure out all what's
Yeah.
okay. So in your guys' eyes, nothing happened. No.
Nothing.
What's this caution hot moms or wet moms thing?
It's just merch. You like it?
Yeah.
I need to get you a shirt, man.
Yeah.
Damn, I wish I had an extra shirt. Dude, they brought another cop.
Blown out of proportion.
Why are we still here?
You guys are being detained for an investigation right now. Simple as that. There's nothing criminal for us. So do your thing, whatever you need to do.
Hey, I want a 1-year pass. I had to call my lawyer over this, and I'm pissed off. Not y'all. Y'all doing your job.
Well,
I'm mad at security.
Sure. Like I said, that's why we were hanging out, waiting to figure out what happened.
I'm just starting up, so I didn't want to.
Bro, you need to stop talking.
So she was assaulted. Then
That's a very.
I like how he's whispering over there, like, can we get him a formal trespass, please? Like he's
well, you guys are going to be
like a
trespassed.
big guy. Add it to the list, man.
Well, do you guys have paperwork for him, or what do you guys
we
want
got
to
it.
do? Oh, so we're just going to print something out for you. It's just going to be the trespass form.
Are we required to sign it?
I don't
No.
think we.
Can I take a picture with you guys?
Or if I do come back.
That would be a cold picture for Instagram. He's got to be in it too. He's got to be in it
I want
too.
the real good guys here.
Not him though.
Yeah. Reserve.
Hell yeah.
Taking the black and white guys.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And I got a paperwork for you. Trespass for a year.
All right, add it to the
Trespass
list.
For a year. Trespass for a year.
All right,
Any
guys.
questions for us, guys?
Nah, that's it for me. Nothing criminal.
Nothing criminal?
Appreciate you guys. I told you, security, whatever his name was. Thank you, man.
The officers issue each of the YouTubers a written trespass warning, but confirm that it is not a criminal matter. The term trespass warning refers to a written notice or verbal warning that informs a certain individual that they are not allowed on a specific property or premises. Although an individual does not have to commit a crime to receive a trespass warning, and the fact that an individual is issued a trespass warning does not indicate that they are being charged with a criminal offense, the violation of a trespass warning is generally considered to be a crime, according to Section 609.605 of the Minnesota statutes. Quote, a person is guilty of a misdemeanor if the person intentionally returns to the property of another within 1 year after being told to leave the property and not to return if the actor is without claim of right to the property or consent of one with authority to consent. Therefore, since the YouTubers received a trespass warning stating that they could not come back to the park and they had no claim of right to the property, their actions would be considered trespass. If they return to the property in the next year without first receiving consent to do so, Furthermore, even though the allegation against the YouTubers was false, private property owners are generally permitted to exclude individuals from their property for any non-discriminatory reason, even if the property contains a business held open to the public. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2021 case of Cedar Point Nursery versus Hasid, quote, "The right to exclude is one of the most treasured rights of property ownership, the very idea of property and tales that sole and despotic dominion, which one man claims and exercises over the external things of the world in total exclusion of the right of any other individual in the universe." Additionally, this so-called right to exclude is generally not impacted by the fact that individuals are engaging in activity that is protected by the First Amendment. For instance, in the 1976 case of Hudgens versus National Labor Relations Board, the Supreme Court held that private property owners could exclude from a shopping center individual members of a labor union who were picketing in front of their employer's store, noting that, quote, "the constitutional guarantee of free speech is a guarantee only against abridgment by government, federal or state." Thus, while statutory or common law may in some situations extend protection or provide redress against a private corporation or person who seeks to abridge the free expression of others, no such protection or redress is provided by the Constitution itself. Accordingly, it is highly likely that a court would determine that Valley Fair could prohibit the use. Tubers from returning to the property, even though the accusation against them was false.
Honestly though, I would have been disappointed if we left there without a trespass. Like, this is a badge of honor right here.
For real.
Like, the part that pisses me off is that she accused us of sexual assault. They found no criminal activity. They decided we didn't do anything wrong. I guarantee you she gets to walk back into the park and just like enjoy her time on the rides. No consequences. The messed up part is like the cops pull up. All they hear is what they tell them. So like they told us we were in there doing that stuff. So they pull up thinking we were. So that's why he came.
After the interaction with officers, the YouTubers left Valley Fair and continued to discuss the encounter as they drove. The video concluded with Mr. Spandy using his trespass notice as a placemat while eating tacos at a nearby restaurant. It is unknown whether Mr. Spandy or the other individuals involved in this incident intend to pursue legal action, and it does not appear that Valley Fair Amusement Park has responded to the video. Overall, the Shakopee police officers get an A- because although the interaction began on an unnecessarily hostile note, the officers maintained respectful and professional demeanors for the rest of the interaction, likely remained within the bounds of their lawful authority throughout the encounter, and set the tone for generally positive interactions with Mr. Spandy and his friends while they were being detained. The officers demonstrated a willingness to investigate the complaint against the YouTubers objectively and without bias, and once they determined that no crime had been committed, they allowed the YouTubers to leave the park without infringing on their constitutional liberties. While simultaneously respecting and enforcing Valley Fair's property rights, I commend the officers for successfully engaging in friendly conversation with the YouTubers while avoiding their attempts to prompt them to make unprofessional comments and for not escalating this situation unnecessarily or arresting the YouTubers without conducting an investigation. Mr. Spandy and his friends get an A because although their conduct was sometimes obnoxious and immature, they remained within their First Amendment rights throughout the encounter generally, cooperated with the officers' investigation while still communicating their innocence, and clearly recognized that the officers were simply doing their jobs by investigating the false allegation. The YouTubers had every reason to be angry that they were falsely accused of sexual assault, but they demonstrated the ability to separate their emotions from their actions, and allowed the officers to complete their investigation without taking their frustrations about the situation out on them. While the officers' attitudes certainly set the tone for the favorable outcome of this encounter, the YouTubers also played a considerable role in the positive resolution of the incident by being willing to allow the officers to investigate and come to the conclusion that they had not committed any crime. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe our channel for next video.